Rich and I have been talking a lot lately about planning for our summer trip. We leave July 1st. We're going to be gone for 3 months to do a bunch of things. And so it got us thinking about what are we taking food-wise, clothing-wise, and equipment. And Rich started talking about all the spare parts that he needed to make sure he had. And
yep.
So I thought maybe folks would be interested in what you carry.
Well, we did that video about the tools that I carry in my tool bag, and you can see that one on our YouTube channel. And we did promise to do a follow-up one on the spare parts, the sealants, the lubricants. Not so much sealants today, but this, I pulled out my various toolboxes, and there turned out to be 3 of them with various spare parts in them. And I realized over the last 15 or more years of traveling around in my previous Airstream, I'd collected a lot of stuff that I actually don't need anymore. So a lot of this stuff is not relevant. I'm going to clean it out later. But a lot of it still is. And since we have a new Airstream, and we're outfitting it together for the first time rather than transfer all that whole crap to it, I thought, okay, let's
weed through it.
Weed it down.
I know, because right now it's very cute and organized in this tackle box thing, but it reminds me of my grandpa. You know, he had all of these things in drawers and on shelves in the basement, and I never really knew what they were for. So I'm excited for you to. Well, I know those are rivets. I know some of these things.
Yeah,
but
there's some things in here. All right, so we're just going to go
what's in here.
In no particular order. And a lot of this stuff, by the way, this is not me coming down from the mountain saying, you know, thou shalt carry these things. There's some of that. Okay, there's some things that I think everybody should have, but a lot of this is just stuff that it's just a good idea to think about, or you should think about your own particular situation and try to figure out if a particular part or spare is relevant to you. So this is all just by way of suggestion, and you should think about your own situation. Also, it depends on how handy you are. If you're not going to fix a certain thing, if you're just going to, you know, call it a day and call in the service tech, then you
may not need all.
You don't need all these things.
Also, if you're a weekend warrior or a week at a time, a lot of these things. Right? May not. I mean, it may not. Isn't it? These are kind of things you want to make sure you have on hand while we're gone longer.
Well, some of them definitely are. Some of them are long trip things, but actually, I think I would position it more as these are remote travel things. Because even if you're only out for a 3-day weekend, if you're going to somewhere where you're really far away from stuff, and something might go wrong on the Airstream,
you want to be prepared.
You want to be prepared. Even if you're only out for 2 days, it's going to ruin your trip. So you know, it's long trip, but it's also remote trip.
Okay.
Anyway, so kind of going through it in particular, a lot of this stuff has to do with the kind of hitch that we have. We travel with a Hensley hitch, and Hensleys are a little bit different. If you have a Pro Pride, they're very similar. They have some unique parts and some unique needs. So a lot of my stuff is geared toward the hitch specifically. For example, this giant tube of grease. The average Airstreamer does not need a giant tube of grease.
A giant tube of grease. That sounds like a personal problem.
Yeah. Many uses.
Not a hitch problem.
But seriously, if you have a Hensley hitch, and I think it's the same with the Pro Pride, there's a grease fitting. There's 2 grease fittings on it. They have to be lubricated. This is not something that's common on other hitches. They have lubrication points, but they're not as needy as a Hensley. Okay. And you go through tubes of grease like crazy on your Hensley.
Is this expensive?
No, it's $3 for a tube of grease.
Oh.
Yeah, you pick it up in any auto parts store, so it's not a big deal. And similarly, and this is one of those. This is a spare part that goes to a Hensley hitch. Oh. It's the grease fitting. So this is where the grease goes in, and this part screws into the hitch, and it's got this little spring-loaded nub at the end. See?
Oh, okay.
This is a unique part. You can't buy this in auto parts stores, hardware stores, or anywhere. I've never been able to find it anywhere but from Hensley. And what happens is sometimes this nub at the end wears out. It's a wear part. This is where the grease goes. And if it wears off, you're going to find out because one day you unhitch the trailer and the weight distribution bars are just going to fall right on the ground and get all dirty. It's a real pain.
That is not good if you're out at like organ pipe, where you're out sort of in the middle of nowhere.
Well, you can put the hitch bars back in, but they're going to keep falling out every time you unhitch the trailer because once you take the tension on, there's no nub to hold them in place. Point is, this is a $25 part. I think that's about what it costs, which you can only get from Hensley. So if you've got a part that you think you might need, that's not terribly expensive. It's not a $500 part, and it's going to be hard to get. You should carry one. Okay. So I carry a pair of these because I learned the hard way on a remote trip one day. And the funny thing is, once I started carrying these, probably more than 10 years ago, I've never needed one again.
So that proves, right? You have the spare parts and nothing will go wrong.
Nothing wrong with that. That's right. This is all insurance that protects the Airstream from breaking.
No cost insurance.
In our last, is
that something that like makes things run smoothly?
It's silicone spray.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. We talked about silicone
I didn't learn anything.
Yeah. Or you just didn't remember what the can looked like.
Right.
But silicone spray lubricant, we talked about this in the video we did, 9 places your Airstream needs lube.
Stop the squeak.
Stop the squeak, yes. So there's my silicone spray, and this one's almost empty, so I need a new can.
Note to self before we leave. We need to
get a new can.
Okay.
I did a blog where I talked about 6 tapes in my tool bag, and I talked about the various tapes that I carry. I don't have them all here, but this is one of them. This is the butyl tape. And if you want to know more about the tapes, you can look up that blog entry in our how-to blog.
But what would you, because, before I knew him, I never heard of the word butyl tape. What does that use for?
This is really good for all kinds of things. It's basically a sealant. You cut it it's like a putty on a tape.
Okay.
And you can pull it and stretch it, and you can use it to fill holes. You can use it to temporarily stick things together. It's got a million uses. It's just really handy. And I do talk about that.
Silly putty, only better?
Yeah, like very sticky silly putty.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it is. So butyl tape is one of those things. I also carry Teflon tape. This is for plumbing fittings. And there's 4 other tapes.
We've used that on the road. I remember that water pump.
Leaking water fitting.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that was in Borrego Springs. And again, no RV technician for 50 miles.
Right, and we found it when we came home from dinner, so it was nighttime.
Yeah, it was horrible. Water spraying out everywhere. Yeah. A little bit of Teflon tape saved the day.
Yeah, it did.
So if you want to know the other 4 tapes that I carry in my bag, you can check out the blog on that, called 6 Tapes from my tool bag or something like that. Here's something that a lot of people I bet don't carry. This is Threadlocker. It's
now see, this looks a lot like something like a sample you get from the plastic surgeon's office, the med spa.
Yeah.
Seriously, they come in these cute little tubes. So what is in here?
This is for...
with the nice color, blue.
Yeah, you put it on the threads of a bolt or screw. You just put a couple drops on there, and then when you screw it in, it acts like a glue, and this bolt or screw won't come back out. So if you have a screw that's coming out repeatedly in the Airstream, it's screwed in the aluminum somewhere, or maybe in the door or something, and it just keeps coming out, put a couple of drops of Threadlocker on it, and that will keep it from
Can we use this in those, when I pull the door where my shoes go in that under our beds, and it keeps popping out, the latch?
No,
you do that?
it's only for threads.
Oh, only for threads. So only on something that screws in with a thread.
Yeah,
you can't just make things stay in place. They have to be a threaded thing.
Yeah, it's kind of a glue, but it's not meant for that kind.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
See, I'm asking questions because I have... In my mind, I'm like, this is the fix it for like the holes in the wall holding heavy art at home that didn't get anchors. I can stick that in. No, that's not true.
Well, you should keep asking questions like that.
Okay.
You might come up with another off-label use that I've never thought of. So
there you go.
That's cool. Here's another one. Your hitch probably has one of these pins in it, and it seems like a dumb thing. But what if one day you just dropped that hitch pin and you couldn't find it?
Didn't you lose it? What did you leave?
I lost a tool for the Hensley. And I didn't have a spare of that. I left it on the bumper when we were in Mexico, and it's still in Mexico today.
Yes, exactly. So, no, this is a really good point, that sometimes even Rich Lure, who, believe me, I watch how methodically he does the hitch and everything else. You set everything out and put everything back, but occasionally it can still happen, so you want to have something.
That was the first time in all my Airstreaming experience, And
then it was a vital piece.
And unfortunately, I had a tool that would do the job. I had a wrench that would replace that particular tool. But it was frustrating to lose it. So I've always carried a spare hitch pin. I've never needed it. But I just imagine one day, if you don't have that hitch pin, you're just done.
Yeah.
You're not going to hitch up. So it's a dumb thing. I also carry another one of these.
What's that?
This is also part of the hitch, the Hensley hitch. Oh. It's just a hitch pin.
Okay.
So I always carry some zip ties. Zip ties are super handy.
Yeah.
For all kinds of
many things.
Yeah, zip ties are super.
That's kind of like me in the kitchen in the Airstream. I say Ziploc bags. I just always have extra. You never know what you can use a Ziploc bag for.
I know.
From keeping a wet, bathing suit or something away from your dry clothes, to leftovers, to just
spare parts.
Yeah.
I bundle things in them.
Pens.
All kinds of stuff. I always carry, of course, a couple of rags. I do carry some mechanics gloves in my toolkit, and that's because if I'm going to be changing a tire, I do like to have gloves just to keep my hands from getting totally filthy. Completely optional.
Well, and I actually also have gloves. They don't look like this, they're pink.
They're pink.
Because I also have found that the gloves are really important, especially when we get into camp. I usually hook up the water hose and the EMS and the sewer hose and stuff, and it's hard. My hands hurt to sometimes twist things on the hose, so the gloves will help.
Yeah, yeah. You call them?
I would not.
What do you call them?
My arrival gloves. Because when we arrive,
yep, the gloves go on.
The gloves go out. I've got them in a compartment, and
you know, it reminds me of those days when ladies had the long rubber gloves for doing the dishes. You know, you protect your manicure.
Yeah, and they, you know, gloves don't have to be like these. I could tell you that they're like greasy and gross, ladies, if you're watching. Mine are not like this, and they're pink.
They're nice and clean.
So they're nicer.
I always carry a spare propane hose. Propane hoses do sometimes fail along the road, and it never hurts to have one. I carry some soapy water solution. This is just water for checking propane leaks. Yes. When you replace a hose, whenever you do a propane fitting, you should check it for leaks. So I always have, it's just water with just a few drops of soap in it.
Well, and see what happens.
Yeah,
you squirt it.
Yeah, you spray it on, and
if there's a leak, it bubbles.
It bubbles, and this is sort of described also in our video about installing a gas stop.
Oh, right.
Because when you do that, you have to replace the hoses, and you need soapy water solution. I also carry some Boeshield T-9, which is just a good general-purpose lubricant.
That made an appearance in Stop the Squeak, also.
Yes, that was in Stop the Squeak. Yep. And let's see. Now we have a 2020 Airstream, which means it has a water heater with a tank. And there is a drain plug on that tank, which should be drained every year. And the drain plug is made of nylon. It's very soft plastic. So it shouldn't be reused. When you take that plug out, you want to throw it away and put in a new plug.
Do you do that every year?
Well, I'm supposed to.
Oh, okay.
I haven't been totally reliable about that.
But this is, I just wondered if it was sort of an annual thing when you're de-winterizing or winterizing or
That's
something
exactly
like that.
when you should do it. You should drain the tank fully when you de-winterize it, and replace the plug when you de-winterize it. And so I always have a spare with me. If you have a 2021 or later Airstream, it may have a tankless water heater, in which case this does not apply. Let's see, I also carry replacement cabinet latches. Now these, they have a habit of going bad after some period of time. They won't snap right, and you'll know when you go to close a drawer or a cabinet and it doesn't latch properly anymore, and you have to keep putting a pen in here and kind of popping this thing back out. If that's happening to you, you need to replace the latch. So I always have a few of those handy. I also carry rivets in various sizes. These are the big ones for the belly pan. They have this extra big head on them.
You don't have to use those that often, right? More we would use these for
actually,
a pop rivet.
Not that one. That's an Olympic rivet, which most people will not need. The smallest pop rivets are not in here. I got to put some in my kit.
We need a note to self. Yeah. So we need a new one of these.
And we need
silicone spray
small
and
rivets.
And I should have had my Post-its handy with a pen.
Yeah, it's the small rivets that go into the interior skin that I tend to replace most often. We've only had to do one so far.
Right.
You know, and they don't pop a lot, but I'd like to have half a dozen spares on hand.
They're quite fun to replace.
Yes, and you can see the video that she did on that, where you actually did.
That was the first time I ever did that.
First ever rivet. Yep. Let's see, what else? I've also got some other parts that are specific to the Hensley hitch. This is a Hensley thing. Hensley sells a spare parts kit on their website, so if you have a Hensley hitch,
you should get that.
Probably should get that. It's not very expensive, and it's got some parts that you might need. Fuses.
Oh, yeah.
Always carry a collection of automotive fuses. There are probably, I don't know what, 10, 15, 20 fuses in the DC power panel that's usually located below the refrigerator. Yeah, in most Airstreams. And that is a good idea to have fuses of the correct rating. They're color-coded, so if you see a green fuse in there, you replace it with another green fuse. That's the rating of the fuse.
Even I can do that.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
I am not mechanical.
And
I can match colors.
This is a fuse puller.
Oh yeah, we did a video on that, I think.
Oh yeah, we do. We did a video on how to replace a fuse. So it just kind of grabs the fuse and it makes it easy to pull it out. So fuse puller. I carry a 15/16 socket, and I don't carry a lot of wrenches and sockets because there aren't very many things on an Airstream that take a socket. However, this drain plug does.
Oh.
And it is 15/16.
Okay.
So I do carry this just in case I, for some reason, need to replace the drain plug out. Maybe it's failed. I don't know. I almost never needed that. So there's a lot of nice to have, maybe I'll need it someday kind of stuff. To be honest, this is a bit of
okay. So what would be for the average Airstreamer who doesn't have a Hensley hitch?
Right.
What are 3 things they really need to make sure they have?
I'm going to say the cheap in small things. And I don't know if I can limit it to feet, but I'd say fuses.
Okay, so just, maybe it's 5, but fuses.
I would say propane hose.
Okay.
And the soapy water solution, I'm going to count that as one.
Okay.
Let's see. Really must have silicone spray or Boeshield or both. Definitely a lubricant of some type. Oh boy, you're really making this hard on me. There's so many things that I would recommend.
I vote gloves.
See,
You just, well,
I don't know. I mean, gloves are nice.
well, you just never know what you're going to run into and need the gloves.
Yeah,
And,
that's true.
I mean, maybe it's nice to have if you've got manly hands and tightening up this and that and holding your wrenches.
Well, I also
I saw those.
You could have these. These are just your basic vinyl gloves in a little tiny packet. So they pack a lot smaller. So if you really just want emergency gloves, you could just do this and stick them in a Ziploc.
Yes.
So there's that.
Many uses.
I don't know. I love having zip ties around.
Okay, we're good. You can't list everything, Richard. I asked for the most important, non-Hensley specific.
Here's a couple of things. This is now, if you have an older Fantastic vent, or actually even the newer ones, I think, they have a little cap like this on the vent itself, and they actually take a glass fuse. They don't use the automotive fuses. So I always have a spare.
So where do you buy that?
This
on
glass
their
fuse.
website?
You can get the glass fuse at any
so it's just a glass fuse, and then this is part of the Fantastic.
Yeah, you just unscrew this
and then you put it in. Okay. Yeah. So having a glass fuse
for the Fantastic vent,
which pretty much most Airstream
and the power hitch jack also takes a fuse, and it takes a very specific type of fuse. So I carry one of those.
Wait, what's the power hitch jack?
The thing at the front that makes the front of the trailer go up and down.
Oh, that's part of the Airstream, not the hitch.
That's part of the Airstream.
Okay.
Yeah. So that one, my older one took a glass fuse. Our newer one takes an automotive type fuse. So of course I have both because I've had older and newer trailers. But yeah, another thing I need to pare down. I don't need that fuse anymore. So that's like a lot of those things. But what we did is
here's the thing: you had he had all this stuff, and what you realized was that you could.
Oh yeah. What? I remember one more thing. I carry an assortment of number 8 Phillips screws.
Why number 8?
Because that's the most common size used in Airstream on the furniture.
Oh.
Yeah, all the furniture is screwed together with wood screws, just like this one. And sometimes the screws just disappear.
Give us an example. Do you have one?
No, I don't. Sometimes they just disappear. I don't know where they go.
Oh, but this has happened to you at some point.
Many.
And so you're like, where'd it go? Who knows?
I can't find it. So I keep
the Airstream ate it. It's somewhere down in the bowels of the Airstream. But you can replace it.
I keep
number 8.
Number 8 wood screws. Yeah, at various lengths. Yeah, so I always have a couple of those. Here, look at this. This is a little tiny bulb of the type that goes in the refrigerator. The refrigerator has
even our modern refrigerator.
I think it has the same bulb.
Yeah.
So I would check and see what kind of bulb your refrigerator takes, and maybe have a spare of that.
Okay.
Lubricant. I talked about lubricants. I said there's the 9 places to lube, but in that video I didn't. I mentioned lubing the seal on the Fantastic vent that goes around the top. You have to get to that from the roof, so it's not something you're going to do every day. You're probably not going to do on the road. But if you have sticky windows, in addition to silicone spray working for those seals, you can actually get these little packets of silicone lube.
So you have to get them from Fantastic Vent?
No, you can get them in a variety of places. Fantastic Vent gave me this one, but lots of people have it. It's just like a little packet of silicone lube, and you can kind of squirt it out. So if you don't want to carry the big can,
you can get the
little packet.
It's a travel size.
Travel size,
yes,
exactly.
Travel size.
Yeah.
Like this. Travel size. Yeah. Travel size. I mean, all of these things are small.
That's one I missed. This is a little tiny container of something called De-Oxit, and it's for cleaning electrical connections. De-Oxit is sort of a lubricant and cleaner, so if you've got dirty spots on like the 7-way cord where it plugs in and you're getting errors like, hey, tail lights are out or brakes aren't working or something like that, usually it's corrosion on the pins. And I use a little special file called the burnishing tool and a couple of drops of this.
Now, is that something that we sell in the electrical connector kit?
That is.
Because let's talk about how you can go and you can get all this stuff and you can invest in this tackle box thing. What is this called? Is it an organizer box?
It's a tackle box, organizer box, whatever.
Or you could get some specific kits that you've put together based on the fact that you don't want to carry everything all the time.
Yeah, this is kind of like my skunk works. This is where over the years I figured all the things that I need and I don't need. It turns out I don't need these. There's some things I don't need. But everything I realized that was sort of essential, I put together a kit. So, for example, the De-Oxit and the burnishing tool and a little bit of dielectric grease goes into the electrical connector maintenance kit.
With some instructions on how to do that.
How to do it, yeah. Okay. And the rivets, same thing. I took the 3 most commonly used rivet sizes in an Airstream, including the one that we don't have right now.
In our box.
And
we need a kit. Let's break open the kit.
And the drill bits that you need if you need to drill out one of the rivets. There's 3 drill bits in here, and instructions again. So I made a rivet kit. Propane, same thing. 2 hoses, the little soapy spray bottle, the Teflon tape, and instructions on how to replace the propane hoses. So over the years I figured out what I needed. And
and that's the maintenance.
This is the maintenance kit. So I've got the Boeshield T-9, which is a general lubricant. I've got the fuses. I've got some more Teflon tape. There's another soapy bottle. It overlaps a little bit there. I've got that water heater drain plug. There's a little red washer for your water hose in case the washer falls out. And we've also got some stuff called Parbond in here, which is a great sealant that they use on the outside of some of the penetrations in the Airstream, like above the doors and windows and things like that.
So you just have to like check those every now and again and fill in where they worn out?
They'll crack. You'll get cracks in the sealant, or maybe you've identified a leak or something like that. If you need to do a quick repair on the road, Parbond's great because it doesn't go bad in the tube. The other sealants, you open it up, you use a little bit of it, and then you don't need it again for a year. When you go to use it the next time, it's turned rock solid.
Oh, so this will last, a couple of years or something?
I've got a container of Parbond in my toolkit that's probably 10 years old, and it's still liquid. It still works. So that's great stuff.
Good product.
So you get some Parbond in there too. So the easy way to do it is to get one of these kits. But anyway, these are some of the things that I carry. Not everything that I carry is obviously in a kit. My hitch-specific parts, like that.
Yeah, if you don't have a Hensley hitch.
Yeah, you know, the zip ties, the gloves. These are things you can get on your own pretty easy. Oh, and one more thing. This is...
Is that the Y...
it's what the famous free-flowing Y.
Oh, the free-flowing Y. When you're doing the daisy chain thing with all the water.
At a rally, exactly. If you go to big rallies like the International, the WBCCI, or Airstream Club International Rally this summer in Lebanon, Tennessee, where we're going.
We'll be there.
They always ask you to bring 2 25-foot hoses and a free-flowing Y. And this is what they mean. This is a Y with no shutoffs on it. They're a little harder to find.
Okay.
Most of the ones you find have little shutoffs on it. They don't like those because the shutoffs restrict the flow of water, and because you're going to be daisy chained from one trailer to another, if everybody uses a shutoff type one,
the guy at the end can't take it. If you got long hair, thick hair, you can't take it.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem. So the free flowing Y always stays in my kit. I only use it once a year when I go to the international rally, but you know, it's going to be appreciated by your neighbor if you carry one.
Okay, was that it?
That's pretty much it. This is the basic, you know, spare bits and pieces. But I can take care of a propane problem, a rivet problem, an electrical problem, a water plumbing problem, a squeak problem,
a cabinet latch problem,
a leak problem, you name it. Yeah, I mean I take care of probably 30 different small and common problems with this
while you're traveling.
Kit. Yeah.
Don't need to go to the service center. Don't need to call for roadside assistance, and you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
So we've got these 4 kits. They're available in the Airstream Life store, store.airstreamlife.com, and that can make it easier. Anything else folks need to know about spare parts?
All I would say is think about your level of mechanical ability, some of the most common things that might happen, what kind of travel you do, and build your kit accordingly. You know, it's really a personal thing. But I would also say, even if you don't feel competent in doing some of the repairs yourself, having the tools and parts with you will make sure that somebody else can help you.
Yeah, because if they're those hard to find tools or things that, you know, like the $25 part for the Hensley hitch.
For the Hensley hitch,
at least you'll have it on hand for somebody who can, if you don't want to DIY.
I don't think there's very many people who travel with this part. But they should. Someday I'm going to look like a genius for having
this. You had it on hand. Exactly.
Okay, so that's it. Hope this is helpful to you. And we'll put links into the other blogs that we've done so you can read up on the other topics as well.
Yep, and kits at store.airstreamlife.com.